Okay, so here we have our little portable greenhouse. You may have seen these before. There's the cover. You can buy these for pretty inexpensive. I'm going to show you what we're doing with it. I've had this for a few years. We only set it out on the porch once we get into, probably May or so. So I think I'm missing 2 of these poles. We've looked around. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the hardware store, local hardware store. We're going to take that with us and we're going to see if we can find something to get 2 of these to go across the bottom 2 shelves. So come on. Go into the hardware store here. Windy out today. Ooh, look at this. Got some nice onion scents. It's an old-fashioned hardware store. We got our PVC, we got a handful of chain. Go home and work on put it in this way. Like, get in, put your window down. You have to put the key in. Hand it to me and you get in. Shut the door. Alright, put the window up. There we go. Almost anything. Okay, so went down to the local hardware store. This is the post that we had, or the bar rod that we had. It's, made of cheap sort of a green color tin rod there. I think this 1/2-inch PVC is going to work. We'll see how it works. Picked up some chain, so we're going to mark this and get it cut to length. We'll do that now. I know you professionals out there, you got the speedy ones, but I'm not a professional. I'm just a homesteader, doing what we can. Okay, let's see if these work for us. When I was down there looking at this, I thought it might be a little bit smaller. So you can see it a little bit smaller, but we're just going to fix that, I think, with some tape on the ends. Alright, so like any project, as you go, hit or miss. I'm not sure how many times I wrapped that. So what we're going to do on the next one is we're going to improve. And just put a little mark here at the end. And I'll mark how many times I go around on this one. Isn't the tape funny? Flip it around 10 times before I find the start of it. go with black. I could run down to the store and buy green, but it's not that important to me. So put this up here. So here's what you just saw. You saw me take this bag. I get these bags when I go to Harbor Freight, and they're really cheap bags. I mean, they just rip horribly easily. But you have to use bags that are paper bags or bring your own bags in the state of New York. So our Harbor Freight is, just across the border in New York, because they have a plastic bag law. The irony here is that if I buy something, everything is wrapped totally in plastic, but the plastic bag, which is the least environmental impact of anything that I'm buying, you can't get. So you have to deal with subpar bags or bring your own when you're in the state of New York. That's just a handy tip. Okay, so this is a cedar, 6 foot tall, dog-eared. So on this end, you can see there's a little dog-eared cut. Cedar 1x6 board, and it's probably closer to 3/4 inch by 6 really, but you can buy these to make fence out of. I've got a video on how to make a planting box, raised bed planter box. I'll link it or post, I don't know what I'll do, but there's a video out here. They're inexpensive boards, they're lightweight, they don't rot, and I'm going to use it for this project. So I need to measure out 27 inches. I'm going to cut this, I'm going to mount my grow lights to it, and then I'm going to mount some adjustable hooks so I can raise the grow light. One of the things with growing plants when you start seedlings indoors that I always struggle with, now maybe you have a different take on this and a different way that you've dealt with it, but I always struggle with the plants getting leggy. So they come up, I've got some heat mats, and when you're using those heat mats, germination, I mean, it really does increase and speed it up. And I'm going to show you that as we document some of this. But it's interesting to me that if you start your plants too early, they'll get really what I call leggy, and that's when they're really reaching, real long, thin stem that isn't very strong because the plant's reaching towards the sun. So we use the grow lights to sort of keep them really close to the source, so we can, a short plant that is thicker and more robust is better than a tall, leggy plant. Now you can plant both, but that thin stem can become a liability to you when you go to plant. So that's our goal, is we're trying to fix that. We're trying to artificially, sort of do that when it gets, if you plant something outside and it grows in your climate and you can put a seed in the ground, putting a seed in the ground is always better than starting with seedlings. Seedlings are because we're trying to make something that normally wouldn't grow in our environment naturally and let me say, not necessarily naturally, but repeatably, and with good results. So we try to take out, and this is where us as humans, we try to come in and we try to take out that variability. So that's what we're attempting to do here. So I'll cut this and begin to get these mounted, and I'll show you the video and all that fun stuff. All right, thanks. When I'm working in the garage, I love to listen to audiobooks, podcasts. In fact, my time is spent between shutting that off when I'm filming versus working on the projects. And one of the things I have out here, I have an Alexa. She just heard me, she's listening. See, she's saying she missed something. But so I listen to podcasts, and I like to listen to the podcast Freakonomics. And I was listening to a Freakonomics podcast, and it's about specialization. And I'm going to post a portion of that because when I listen to things, I don't listen necessarily to things that just I agree with. I mean, if you do that, you live in an echo chamber. And that's not what is good for any of us. I don't want to live in an echo chamber. So, we do need to hear things that we disagree with and just learn and expand. So that's part of the reason I, do this YouTube channel. I want to expand the things that I do. And I'm a real big believer in this idea that as individuals, as humans, specialization can be dangerous. And I'm going to post a portion of what was said here because it got me fired up.
Aspects of how you make a pin. A group of 10 workers in a factory in one day could make 48,000 pins. That means 4,800 pins per worker. While each of these individual workers, if they had to make these pins on their own, they'd be lucky to make maybe 20.
Victor Matheson has his own favorite example of specialization.
I think back to the books and the TV series that were on when I was a kid, Little House on the Prairie. And Pa Engels, everyone was in love with Pa Engels because you're like, oh, this guy can do everything. Is there anything that Pa can't do? And it turns out Pa could do a lot of things, but he couldn't do anything well. And his family was in poverty essentially their whole life, living at the edge of existence. We talk about the term, this guy's a jack of all trades, but the reality is being a jack of all trades kind of means you're a jackass of all trades.
That's right. Victor Matheson just called the beloved Pa Engels a jackass, but he's an economist. What do you expect? Here's how Matheson describes his own work.
Economics is the...
And you guys remember, or maybe if you're like me and you're a homestead type guy and you keep bees and ducks and chickens and you build and make stuff and you do projects and I do it more as a hobby than sustenance living, level living, because I do have a full-time job. But I like the ability and the education it gives me to do other things, right? So I got fired up because they said, jack of all trades, I think the statement was, is a jackass of all trades. The idea being that specialization is the way that, of the advanced human. But I'm going to tell you what, I think we've become over-specialized. I think we have a whole bunch of people who can't do anything. And if we were some big collective of ants or bees, maybe specialization makes sense, but that's not who we are. We are individual people. And this is why I really subscribe to the idea. So first of all, this is all based in my idea that Jesus Christ, historically speaking, we know Jesus Christ existed. Biblically speaking, I know Jesus Christ existed, and I can show you that. And the two tie together, and I see great value in individuals. And that's why I really subscribe to this idea. And I work in a manufacturing facility where specialization is important for what we do. But we also do believe that people are the most important thing. One of the waste is employee engagement and talent. And that's because we've got this idea that specialization, this simple little thing that everyone can do, that's the key to success. And it's not the key to success. We don't want, especially as we move in, maybe the argument could be made in the early 20th century on the factory line that was the peak of, specialization was the peak of human efficiency. But we've moved beyond that, and there's robotics and automation and things like that should free us up to do what we really should be able to do, which is a wide range of things. So I don't want to spend, you probably already like, I'm just watching how you're making the greenhouse thing. Well, if so, you get injected with a little bit of this, my philosophy here. And it's just, some people like it, some people won't. But I love the idea of men and women being able to do a multitude of things. Now, we can specialize in things, but I love, actually, a guy who I probably disagree with on a lot of things. He said this. It was the guy who wrote Starship Troopers. Shucks, I can't remember his name. Right down here, we'll put what his name is. But he said specialization is for insects. A man should be able to, sail a ship and build a boat and, tend a garden and I mean, he said it differently. It begins with an H, his last name. I'll put it on here. And maybe I'll refilm this, I don't know, just to get that portion of it. But the idea is that we're not created like insects. We are created to be able to do a wide variety of things. And I like that, and I think that it's important, and that's why I do what I do here. So do a wide variety of things. Learn a bunch of stuff. Make and do and create, just like our Creator designed us to. All right, I'm going to get back to this. But I had to pause the podcast because it made me angry. All right, thank you. So we have to make a repair to one of our grow lights. If you've not seen these grow lights, I'll post a link to them. I got them off of Amazon. And they're really cool. They're inexpensive, but I have had one that I've had this issue with. Now you can see I've sort of messed with it before, but that's the light. It's really bright, but you'll see what the issue is the solder job just broke off. I tried fixing it. I'm going to try to work on it and fix it. And part of the issue is this is leveraged out here with this plug. So any movement on that just is torquing on these connections. So we're going to try to fix that. According to the interwebs, the 60% tin, 40% lead fine wire solder that I'm going to use melts at 361 degrees. So I've set this right around 375. So let's see if this begins to melt what we need melted here. I probably should spend some time on YouTube, which is a great place to learn stuff, and figure out how to get extra, the best way to get this extra solder out. But instead, I'll just keep chugging at it the way that I do. I'll look it up later though. So comment on the best way to do this. There are two small holes that this go into, and I think there was plenty of solder on before. I just don't think that it was probably heated up to temperature and had a good heat soak around getting the solder to flow down into the holes. And that's typically what you want to use your flux for. Let's just give it a quick plug in and see how this thing. Okay. It seems like it's on there pretty good. We're going to fix this because we're going to immobilize this and this plug. But I won't be able to take this plug out, and I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly okay with that. So let's get on to what we're doing there. Okay, so I've marked out the boards. I've done one board as a test run. I'll show you that in a moment. But basically centered it up, marked out, and the whole goal is so when they're mounted, they're always in the same spot. But also, you can see where these join. I just spent 20 minutes probably flipping all these push-in rivets so that the larger side was sticking out this side. I had them when I originally put them together facing that way, so it had a more finished look on this side. I don't know why that mattered at the time. But basically, I've created a little area here where I am going to just use the router real quick. So these sit in here flat. Then I'll fasten this down and I'll put a wire cover, one of these cable covers, over the wire as I hook the wires up, and we'll get these one step closer to getting mounted on our greenhouse unit. All right, I'll be back. Well, I guess maybe what I'll do is do this right now. All right, so here's what we have so far, so you can see what's going on here. So we have these hooked in. We've got hooks on the board. We've got the, pull this out of here. We've got the lights mounted on these boards. It's pretty level. We'll tie in our cords with some wire ties so the switches are together here, and we're coming along. I gotta wait for the camera to adjust to all that light because there's so many candles because she's so old. Okay, it's adjusted.
Okay, ready? Okay, ready?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Chloe. Boo, boo, boo. Happy birthday to you.
Yeah. Hey, get them all. Get them all one swoop. Almost.
Yay! 20 foot of chain, made 16. I've got 4 up there. 16 of these chains that we'll use to support our lights. So we're gonna get these hung. We put hooks in the 4 corners, and then we'll be able to adjust this as the plants start to grow. One step closer. This is the greenhouse, and we've got a little bit more to do, but we got all the lights chained. As the plants get taller, we'll lift them and put them in different levels of our chain here. Through some ties onto the rods to go across here. Right now the heating mats are just sitting on there. I'll probably tie the cords in the back. Put the switches for the lights here. We're gonna mount a power strip onto here. Then we'll get our cover. We'll get it put on there. And I may put some reflective insulation on this on the inside, so the light sort of is kept in there. Obviously it's light, it's not going to stay in there the whole time, but so that it doesn't leak out as much when it's sitting in the living room, and gives you a more even growing sort of light. So this is where we're at right now. So we've got all of our lights hooked up. We've got 8 pads on here, and I'll give you the wattage total of this setup. So we're into 2 6-slot power strips. And you can see there's 2 lights and 4 heating pads on each one of them. And we're going to put the top on it now and see what it looks like. So this is the cover, and that's a roll-up, zip-up door. You have a little bit of tug because of that. Now, we may be able to flip this down on its side underneath. We'll see. It's just a little snug right there. It's ready, though, to start putting some seeds in.